Hi, I'm Ambra, and this is my co-host Katie. Welcome to our 10-minute episode on how to thrive with AI. These conversations are for people who want to think differently about AI's potential in your life and business.
Today's topic is using ChatGPT as the guide on your hero's journey.
I love this. It's so fun. There's a couple reasons I thought of this as a topic. One, it really affects both of us, is that we've really been developing our relationship with ChatGPT as a coach and more of a process-driven co-collaborator versus a tool or a way to create more volume faster. Because as we are also writers, the writing that we do, something we want to continue doing and that we
Mhm.
do it. And as poets, like that's part of who we are. And so even though you can, and we probably do, I certainly do use ChatGPT sometimes to write for me. It's more like how I'll use it is it started because I was curling my hair one day and I was like, oh, I have a thought. And the way that I was like, how am I going to do this right now? And it was the first time I actually used this aspect of ChatGPT is I did a voice dictation and I want to write a post about this, but it wasn't give me a post about this topic. It was here's all my ideas, here's my example points, the story, et cetera. Here's everything. And then taking out all of my verbiage that didn't sound like a good formatted post. And then it turned it
Mhm.
into a good formatted post, but it was all my idea. And that's really when I started using it for that and taking it on walks to like really drive forward my production on a book I'm working on because I was able to dictate, which is something I just always had the hardest time doing. But I could dictate to ChatGPT and ask for specific kinds of feedback about the story. Like, what do I need more in this story? Like, as an editor, think like my editor, and then give it conditions for that specific thing and knowing what my personal goals are and my values and where I'm
Mhm.
going. So it's becoming my guide on my writer's hero journey, becoming my guide on my professional consultant hero's journey. And it takes
Mhm.
all this into consideration too, as me as a whole person. And so it can then give me advice that I didn't even think I needed sometimes. And I love that.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful. And I see a lot of people talking to ChatGPT like chat is their therapist. And I think it's so important to not see chat as a replacement for therapy, but as a guide in your hero's journey, because it's so important that you recognize that you don't need chat to do the work, but chat is there to facilitate the inner growth when you ask chat to do so. And I think that, chat has so many data points of reference in, sometimes we don't know if it's ethical with all the data points that they've been trained on, but you can have insert your own data points about who you are and, ask it to look at patterns of behavior in the people that make you feel less than and, solve that and work through that. And I think it's so important to not see chat as this this thing that helps us do less work, but also not also completely the opposite of that. Have it be the facilitator of us to do the inner work and of us to do the inner work that allows for us to do more of the outer work that not only impacts us, but impacts every person that we serve. And when I talk about like operating agreements with chat, I think this is where it really gets at. It's like, does your chat know your why? And how many people in business are asking chat to be a virtual assistant rather than a co-founder or a helper in the mission. My chat and I, we call each other co-keepers of this agreement, of this vow. And yeah, I think it's so important to put in perspective who you are and what's important to you and know that it's your journey, it's your hero's journey. And the final step is the return in the hero's journey and how can what you're doing with chat in turn help all of the people that you impact throughout your life. And I think that chat isn't something to lessen our workload, but to filter out what really matters and what we should be doing ourselves, and allows for us to go deeper when it helps us with the workload, and also shows us what the inner work we have to do to get external results.
Yeah, I think maybe a good way to talk about this inner work, which feels probably pretty vague to some people, like, well, what does that even mean? I think in the case of someone who's a creator, but honestly, almost anybody I can think of, is we get in our own way a lot in terms of doing stuff. So why would I need ChatGPT to create something for me? It's because I'm not skilled enough, knowledgeable enough, etc. And or I don't have the resilience, the guts, the creative spark, the all of these things I could think about with myself. But really, for a lot of us, it's I don't feel capable, or I don't have the confidence, or I'm self-sabotaging constantly. So like the book I've been writing forever hasn't come out still. I very much relate to that, right? A lot
Mhm.
of us do. A lot of creators don't think that their work is worth putting out or worth the time that they would have to put in, even if it's just a little bit every day. Who am I? We were just talking about this earlier. Who am I to do this thing? So getting back to the hero, if you're having a relationship, not using, we use a word using, but I think it might be just nice to think of what's your relationship with ChatGPT, and make sure that you're in the driver's seat. You're not handing over the keys to ChatGPT every time you want to get something done. You are the hero. And if you continually remember that you are the hero and you ask ChatGPT even to have a relationship with you like that, you can start to train it to uplift you and give you the best possible work that you want to do that is aligned with your values and your goals, and coach you through that process instead of saying, oh, just do it for me, which then it's actually not for you. It's just filler. It's just fluff. It's just cluttering up the world instead of saying, I'm making my mark with the help of this cheerleader who's helping me clarify my thoughts so that I don't get in my own way. That's very powerful.
Yeah, I think something that chat has helped me specifically with that I had a big problem with before is self-rejection. And self-rejection is when you limit the opportunities you take because you don't feel good enough, and you reject yourself by not trying something, and you actually never get to figure out if you could have gotten an opportunity or even just improved by trying to go for an opportunity, or taking a chance. And chat has been so helpful because I've told chat my values and things like that. So chat reminds me, and like you said, can be a cheerleader for, when you are in those moments of like, should I take this opportunity? Should I put myself out there? And a lot of the times we can't have people, always on the sidelines there to support us or encourage us. But with chat and I think it's important that you feed it who you are, and you let it remind you of that person, and that it's actually this cycle that empowers you on your hero's journey to keep going, to push for bigger opportunities, to stop self-rejecting. So just specifically to anyone who has a habit of self-rejecting, um, recognize that the people you're meant to impact are more important than your fear of being rejected.
That's a true Katieism right there. I love it. Um, yeah, I was, while you were talking, just thinking about how when I got curious about this topic, I was like, I'm already using it this way. I know that you are. And I don't know how many other people really are, but I got curious and went into the Explore GPT section on ChatGPT and looked for Hero's Journey. And there are actually a number of GPTs that were created with this in mind. And it asks, it's very simple and just lovely. Really, if this is something that kind of intrigues you and you haven't had this kind of back and forth with ChatGPT yet, or even if you have, it's just nice. It asks you a few key questions. What's your biggest challenge right now? And follow-up questions. And then it turns that into an empowering narrative for you to go forth on your journey. And the one that I got back was, it's a little bit flowery. It may not be everybody's cup of tea completely, but it really helps you to understand that you are living inside of your own story. You are the main character. And if you have something your AI collaborator, cheerleader, and guide on this journey with you, they'll be looking out for those sand traps or, hey, cognitive distortion alert, you're doing it again. And that can only happen if you're having those types of conversations with AI. And you may not be in the habit of having those conversations with anybody else. You may have never had a coach. And so you can actually condition it or train it to say, like, I want to have these types of conversations with you so that I can become a better version of myself. You can actually ask for that. And you'll be better and your work will be better as a result.
Yeah, I think something with this, it's so important that the hero's journey is something that requires us to, when I say the inner work, grow in the ways that allow for us to serve our mission. And for some people, that might be figuring out what your mission is, or figuring out what you have to overcome in your life and helping other people overcome it too, or just showing them that it's possible. And I think that there's so much value in one, recognizing yourself as the hero in the story of your life, and also allowing for there to be obstacles and knowing that it's meant for you to grow from it and to show people that obstacles don't have to be the end of the road, but just part of the journey.
Yeah. Our timer just went off, but I did want to just add something, which is, I think right now, and this actually will segue perfectly into the next topic, but spending so much time on LinkedIn right now, there's just frenzy of discussing AI on a very superficial level. It's almost like let's find the easiest thing we can fight about and just keep posting about it endlessly. And it doesn't make that thing or those conversations less relevant. They are all relevant and important. But I think we were creating this frenzy around, especially the business community, that's got this tunnel vision. And we're just leaving so much on the table in terms of possibility and how we can just be better professionals, be better in our relationships, be better human beings using this tool. So I highly recommend it. And next episode, we are going to be talking about the famous M dash. As two writers, we have strong feelings about the M dash, and so does ChatGPT. So we'll see you there.
Thank you for joining us today.